Thanks for taking part in this experiment. We expect the results will help us improve how we lecture dyslexic students. This presentation is about global warming and its effects on our planet. We'll begin with an understanding of what it is. There's no real dispute about the existence of global warming. It manifests in a variety of ways, like desertification, the polar ice caps melting, smog, and so on. We do know, however, that this is due to an elevated temperature of the planet, and the heat trapped in the planet is unable to escape by radiation into space. It's almost as if the planet Earth was inside a microwave oven, being cooked without a way of releasing its ever-increasing heat. In the 1970s, the environmental philosopher James Lovelock suggested that Earth was just like people. It was a self-regulating organism. By this he meant that, in the way that people reduced their body's heat by sweating, the Earth too reduced its body heat by radiating the excess temperature into outer space. The problem with global warming is that with the introduction of a human dynamic, that extra heat is unable to radiate out into space. We know that the Earth's temperature has risen more quickly over the last 40 years. The existence of an ever-decreasing polar ice cap, the rise in water levels in various oceans, and the disappearance of a variety of islands around the world is testament to this. We know that it is held to be damaging for animal life in so many ways. Few people will not have seen the sad image of polar bears on melting ice caps, unable to find sufficient food. But in addition, of course, it's greatly harmful to the natural human environment. It contributes to flooding and a variety of other problems. The problem with all of this is that the causes are hotly disputed. Few people doubt anymore that global warming is with us. But the problem with identifying causes is that someone has to take responsibility. There is much debate about the causes of global warming. We're going to have a look at a number of explanations. The first is referred to as the anthropogenic argument, and this places human beings front and centre in terms of explaining why the temperature of the planet is rising inexorably. This argument suggests that it's a combination of humans and their techno-capitalist evolution. This simply refers to the role of the Industrial Revolution, and later and more recently the Technological Revolution, that has placed ever greater pressure on the Earth's natural resources while simultaneously interfering with the planet's natural cooling process by creating a greenhouse effect in which the gases and waste produced by capitalism and development form a barrier which prevents the Earth's heat from radiating into space. Let's have a look at another explanation. It's the sun's fault. Global warming is a product of the sun's direct proximity to the planet Earth. As a result, there's nothing that humans have done that have contributed to the rise in the Earth's temperature. It's something beyond our control, and the only thing that we can actually do about this is manage that rise in Earth's temperature with technology. We can see from this chart the extent to which natural temperature has increased in the Earth. There is no clear evidence from this diagram that human intervention has contributed to the rise in the Earth's temperature. This takes us to our third explanation, that it is in fact human activity that's magnifying the effects of the sun. In other words, it's a bit of both. The problem with this is that it's impossible to know exactly who has contributed to what aspect of global warming. Activity in Eastern Europe can have an effect in Scandinavia. Activity in North America can have an effect in South America. But we're unable to ascertain exactly who is responsible, and this results in a great deal of finger pointing, but very few solid agreements on how to move forward. There are many critiques of this situation, and there is little doubt that it is crucial as far as human evolution is concerned. One of the first allegations raised towards human beings is that the problem is in fact a human one. The problem is that of the arrogance of anthropocentrism. People have decided that they can dominate and manipulate all other life forms with little regard for the planet. In this view, the problem is essentially of the capitalist relationship with the planet. Some refer to an effective rape of the planet by capitalist exploitation for profit and greed. In this view, man lacks humility and respect for the unique, complex and astonishing planet that we inhabit. So let's now turn to some possible solutions to this situation. The first and probably most well known is the idea of sustainable development. This is the notion that by tweaking various aspects of the way that we interrelate with the planet in our industrialization and techno-capitalist evolution, we can in fact reduce the impact of our activity on the Earth. This is about reducing the footprint that we leave behind as we go through our lives. Another proposed solution is corporate social responsibility. In this view, it is the responsibility of big business to reduce the amount of damage that they introduce to the natural environment, and therefore reduce the amount of global warming. Yet another potential solution is ethical consumption. Few people's lives in the Western world have not been touched by the idea of caring for the environment, changing our behaviour, reducing what we consume, and so on. The problem with this is that it's still consumption which lies at the heart of the challenge to the natural environment. This image is an example of finning, a process undertaken to satisfy specific needs in certain parts of the world regarding consumption of the natural environment. This has led some critics to suggest that that very approach of maintaining what we're doing in the form of sustainable development is in fact oxymoronic. It's a contradiction in terms. K.C. Bell told us that we could not reconcile our ideas of development, which is based on the capitalist model expanding around the world since the end of the Cold War, with an emerging awareness of the limits to the resources upon which capitalism depends to give us the riches that we desire. This image helps us understand the relationship between the role of the planet's natural environment in the production of electricity and the rising sea levels that threaten to drown the Earth as a result of the waste product into the natural environment of that process of sustainable development. In other words, if we're not careful, we're going to go the same way of the dinosaurs. Einstein had a similar perspective. His was a broader conception. He maintained that you could not solve the problem that you faced with the same thinking and tools that created the problem in the first place. In other words, if the problem is partly related or greatly related to capitalist development, then capitalist development cannot be the solution. K.C. Bell advocated that we should develop sustainably, that we shouldn't be involved in sustainable development, because that's a contradiction in terms. By developing sustainably, Bell and many others are arguing that we need to change the fundamental underlying ethos of our existence on the Earth. This implies that we need to change how we think about consumption, about the things that we buy, about the things upon which we depend, and those things that we imagine help us improve our lives dramatically. If we don't, then we're faced with the conundrum in this image, that we will render extinct the natural resources upon which we depend, and we will therefore no longer be able to live at all. Thank you so much for attending this session. Please would you now click on the link below this video and complete the online survey. Thanks once again.